Opening in the year 1989, two young boys, Daniel and Alex Ladomas, are running around in a mansion while being followed by a man. Daniel hides his younger brother in a closet before he is approached by the man who is revealed to be Aunt Helene's new husband, Charles. He pleads with Daniel to help him as he has just been wounded and is being hunted, but instead, Daniel yells, alerting the whole family to his location. Masked family members enter the room and shoot an arrow that pierces his chest before dragging him away while Helene sobs and screams. 30 years later, Alex is getting married to Grace, who is nervously practicing her wedding vows, but eager to join the family. She knows family members disapprove of her since she isn't coming from a wealthy family, but she is determined to impress them at all costs. Right before the wedding, the couple attends a photo shoot along with the groom's family members. Daniel is joined by his wife Charity, who freely admits that she only married him in order to benefit from his family's wealth. Tony, their father, expresses his apparent disapproval of Grace, but not as strongly as Helene, who gives Grace a death glare. It's only Becky, Alex and Daniel's mother, who seems to be more supportive and tells Grace that only Alex's opinion matters. Everyone gathers for the ceremony moments later, as Grace and Alex get married. After the ceremony, the newlyweds sneak into a room, trying to get intimate, but they are shortly interrupted by Helene, who tells them that everyone is waiting. Alex then explains that tradition requires every new addition to the Ladomas family to play a randomly selected game at midnight before they can officially become a family member. Grace is willing to engage in any game to win over the family. She goes downstairs and engages the family in conversation as she meets Fitch and his wife Emily together with their two sons. Minutes to midnight, they all enter a secret room and assemble around a table as Tony recounts the family history to Grace about his great-grandfather, Victor Ladomas, who made a deal with a mysterious wealthy benefactor Mr. LaBelle, a collector of unusual antiquities, and Victor won a bet by figuring out a mysterious puzzle box. In exchange, Mr. LaBelle provided funding for Victor's playing card manufacturing business, which grew into the family's game company dynasty. Tony admits the fact that Victor made a satanic pact with Mr. LaBelle that requires sacrifices in order to keep the family prosperous. He adds that according to tradition, whenever a new member of the family enters the family through marriage, a blank playing card is placed inside the puzzle box. The new participant then draws a card to reveal which game Mr. LaBelle chooses to play. He passes the box to Grace, to draw a card and choose a game. The room falls silent when she draws the card with hide and seek as her game. Grace is given the unappealing advice by Tony to hide until dawn in order to prevail. Tony arms each member of the family with a weapon and warns them that if they don't find, capture, and sacrifice Grace before dawn, they will all perish. One of the maids, Clara, is reading a bedtime story to the boys somewhere else in the mansion. The family goes in search of Grace while she hides in a dumbwaiter. Alex, on the other hand, decides to abstain from the ritualistic murder because she is unable to carry it out. Once everyone has left, Alex goes to warn her and leaves the room, which Charity learns about. Grace, who has grown tired of the game, exits the dumbwaiter and wanders before being discovered by Alex, who covers her mouth and commands her to keep quiet. Clara is pacing the room looking for one of the boys who had gotten out of bed, so the two hide from her. While Clara is looking for him, a gunshot is heard, and her face is blown off. Following the shot, Grace peeks and sits in horror as Tony and Helene assist in moving Clara's body. Grace is taken into a different room where Alex informs her that according to Mr. LaBelle's rules, they are supposed to kill Grace before sunrise. Even though he admits he didn't tell Grace about the game because he was worried she would leave him, he insisted that he never imagined Grace would be unlucky enough to draw the hide and seek card. He promises to find a way to get her out safely. While he goes to the surveillance room to open the mansion's electronic doors, he tells Grace to leave. Grace rips the bottom of her wedding dress off in order to move around more comfortably. She begins to find her way out and runs into Tony, Helene, and Daniel, who spot her right away. They attempt to incapacitate her, but Emily, fresh off another line of coke, begins firing wildly at her and misses. She makes a run for it to the study and tries to hide. Daniel enters the study and finds her, but he seems so unbothered by the hunt, so he gives her a 3-second head start, allowing her to get away before alerting his family. After she has left, Daniel alerts the others as his wife arrives first to the study, and starts an argument blaming him that he left Grace to get away. The rest of the family members gather together in the study to come up with a new plan. Emily sobs and clings to Tony while telling him that she has lost her gun, while Tina, another maid, enters frantically attempting to tell Tony that she saw Grace. But before she could speak, Emily, who has now been given a crossbow by Fitch, accidentally shoots an arrow through Tina's mouth. Tina's head is chopped off by Helene as she won't stop groaning, interrupting her when she is trying to speak. Becky then suggests that they should activate the security cameras to find Grace, which Helene rejects because it goes against their tradition, while Tony agrees with Becky's idea and convinces her that if their great-grandfather had the cameras he would have used them. Meanwhile, Grace walks into the secret room once more and picks up a rifle with its ammo, and heads to the kitchen while Alex tries to turn on the cameras and disable the locks on the doors and windows. She hides under the counter as Stevens, the butler, enters to make tea. In the meantime, Alex succeeds in unlocking the doors and windows as Grace comes out from hiding, pointing the gun at Stevens. The gun fails to go off when she tries to shoot him, as he reveals that the ammunition is only for display. She then smashes the teapot over his head and manages to escape. Grace tries to hide in a dumbwaiter after hearing footsteps. On opening it, she finds Dora, the third maid, who is hiding inside it. She starts yelling to try and alert the family, but she accidentally turns the dumbwaiter on, which crushes her, and Grace flees once more. Tony and Daniel arrive at the control room where they find Alex. He fights back when Tony attacks, but Daniel manages to talk him out and distract him. This gives Tony a chance to knock him out. They carry him to the bedroom and handcuff him to prevent him from further helping Grace, who is now outside the bedroom window. She jumps outside and runs to the stable, where she meets Fitch's son and thinks he'll help her, but he draws a gun on her and shoots a hole through her hand. She punches the boy unconscious before getting startled by a goat, causing her to fall into the goat pit, where the corpses of goats and unfortunate family members are disposed of. She climbs to the top as the ladder cracks beneath her feet, leaving her with no option but to use both hands to pull herself up. A nail goes through the hole in her hand. She musters the strength to pull herself out and then tears off her dress and uses it as a bandage, then starts running outside, squeezing herself through the front gate, and tries to flag down a passing car, but the driver is a jerk and drives away. Soon after, she runs into the woods but is later discovered by Stevens, who attempts to apprehend her. After a struggle, she strangles him with a piece of her dress and steals his car, not realizing he is still alive. She flees and attempts to contact a customer care agent for help. Unfortunately, he tells her that the car has been reported stolen and shuts the car down. In the car, frustrated and not knowing what to do, Stevens finds her and shoots her with a tranquilizer. He video calls the family while driving back to the mansion and informs them that he has found Grace. He turns up the radio volume, playing some classical music, not knowing that Grace has woken up. The family tries to warn him, but he doesn't notice Grace as she kicks him twice in the head, causing him to flip the car into a field in the woods. She survives the crash and gets out, but is soon found by Daniel, who knocks her out and takes her back to the mansion. Grace is then placed on an altar to begin the ritual of sacrifice to Mr. LaBelle. They pass around a chalice and drink from it, but just before Tony murders Grace, they begin throwing up violently. Turns out Daniel put something in the drink that makes everyone sick, freeing Grace from the altar. He tries to help her escape, but Charity catches up with them. She shoots Daniel in the throat, knowing he is no longer on their side. Grace fights Charity and takes the gun from her but realizes it is out of ammo. She pistol whips her and tries to help Daniel, who tells her to go. Alex breaks free from his cuffs and attempts to save his brother, but it is too late. Afterward, Tony goes after Grace and makes an attempt to kill her, but she hits him on the head with a lantern, then drops it, setting the curtains on fire. Becky finds her and shoots her with her arrow, missing, but tries to strangle her. She grabs Mr. LaBelle's box, knocks Becky off of her, and then uses the box to bludgeon her to death. Alex arrives on the scene and tries to engage Grace in conversation, but soon turns on her and gives her to his family after realizing that she might not stay with him anymore. They continue their ritual while holding Grace down. Helene releases her hold just as Alex is about to stab Grace, getting herself stabbed in the shoulder. She screams and gets up from the table, pointing the dagger at the family. They all flinch in fear at their imminent deaths as they realize it is already too late and the sun has risen, but nothing happens. Helene grabs the axe, still intending to kill her when she explodes, followed by Fitch. Charity starts begging, but soon she explodes. Emily tries to get away with the kids, but they all die as soon as they step out of the door. Tony attempts to yell that he followed the rules, and he explodes as well. Alex makes a desperate plea to Grace, thinking he will survive considering he is good, but he explodes. Mr. LaBelle's ghost becomes visible to Grace as he sits in his chair and nods just before he vanishes in a blazing cloud. Grace goes outside and smokes a cigarette as the mansion burns behind her. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel.